Hello and welcome to week 8 in History of Psychology. Here I'm recording this on the 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. A few days ago was July 1st. That was happy birthday, Canada. So there we go. Happy birthdays to our two favorite countries. So today, this week, we're going to be going over Chapter 8, which is really kind of a step into modern psychology. And that is the roots of what we now call applied psychology, rising up from what we have been reading about functionalism. So basically, functionalism created the legacy, the lasting legacy of functionalism as a philosophy within the field of psychology is applied psychology. And this is personally relevant to me because when I was in my undergraduate work, I was a marine biology major, did not like psychology. However, I was on the Frisbee team, and the advisor for the Frisbee team was the head of the psychology department, and he was a psychometrician. And a psychometrician practicing the field of psychometrics is the use of testing to determine brain dysfunction of some kind. So a paper pencil test that will indicate there might be something wrong with the person's brain or their functioning. Now, probably the most famous one, certainly made famous by President Trump, is the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, the MoCA, which is a paper and pencil test that is used to determine whether or not someone has early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, specifically that diagnostic test. It's not a definitive test. It's actually an open source test. People can just download it. But they have to draw things, they have to identify the names of animals, they have to remember words, they have to be able to complete sentences, understand storylines and stuff. It's a basic cognitive test that correlates. It's important to understand the notion here when we're talking about testing and paper and pencil testing. What you're looking is data that's collected that correlates highly with function. It doesn't necessarily have to directly measure that function. So when we think about something like the MoCA, we think that if an individual scores poorly on that test, there is an increased probability that they may have signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. There may also be a number of other reasons why they did not perform well on that test. They may not have understood the instructions. They might not speak English. They may be blind, they may be deaf. There's all kinds of reasons why an individual wouldn't perform well on that test. You'd have to eliminate those things. The MoCA is really a quick and dirty test specifically designed to say, should we look into this a little bit more deep? And most of the testing that we encounter in the world of psychology is of that nature. So we use paper and pencil tests as an easy way to collect data on individuals, including IQ, achievement, the potential test in an individual's capacities, and what a memory span test, visual spatial operations, all of these things that we learn that identify the skills and practices that our brain undergoes for basic functioning. We have tests that we can measure those at. So that's kind of and that's still with us. All of that is incredibly important in the field of psychology right now. And it's grown into this very, very large field called applied psychology, which is essentially the use of psychological measurement to solve problems. It's applied as opposed to basic research looking at the functions of the brain and trying to understand those. Applied psychology is actually, well, as the name implies, applying what we know about the human brain and human behavior to solve problems. You could probably imagine the scope of that field is pretty wide. So we have two discussions this week. The first one is, of course, introducing you to the first, probably most famous, of the intelligent quotient test or IQ test, and that's the Stanford-Binet. Some interesting history about what that test is. Again, keeping in mind, paper and pencil tests correlate with functioning. So the IQ test that Stanford-Binet put together was meant to correlate with the likelihood as to whether children would benefit from special education or whether they should go on to normal education. It didn't measure intelligence. It's become that because of the use of intelligence tests in the non-clinical sense. So IQ tests measure the capacity for someone to actually do well in school, which is one of the many applications of intelligence. So I'm asking you to take the test. There's a free version of it. It's a non-clinical version. Now you have to be licensed to actually administer the real Stanford Binet, but you get to experience some of the questions and comment on what that was like, whether or not there's some bias and whatnot, and thinking about that. And then in discussion B, kind of looking at psychometrics overall, about using tests to make decisions. And in the course book, I talk a little bit about tests being used for hiring practices, tests being used to match people up in dating services, tests being used for employment, all of these things, employment and advancement and whatnot. Tests that we've encountered, the tests that I've encountered growing up, I certainly took achievement tests that marked out how well I was doing in terms of main learning results. I took the SAT, which is an intelligence test that predicts how well I will do in college. I took the Miller's Analogies test, which is a test that's supposed to determine how well I do in graduate school. I took the graduate record exam, which glorified SAT, with a psychology special test to determine how well I'm going to do in my PhD. And then took the ASVAB, the Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is another test that has its origins way back to the Army Alpha, Army Beta, first sort of like applied test of intelligence and capacity for military jobs that are out there. I've taken all of these tests and got different kinds of feedback about them. What does it mean to you to have instruments created that measure your capacities, and then other people can, you or other people can make decisions based on that? We do this all the time. And actually, if we really expanded this out, we can actually even look at testing as like I do in this class. I have assignments, I have discussions, and I have quizzes. Do those instruments where I'm asking you to perform a particular task, do they actually represent and measure the knowledge that you have gained in preparation for taking those tests? Oftentimes, educators don't really do the research to see if truly is my question going to actually bring about evidence of the knowledge I'm expecting you to know, or the knowledge I want you to know. We go with it because there's really not a whole lot of time or energy to test and retest every single aspect of assessment in school. But all of those count as psychometric tests. So a multiple choice quiz on the parts of the brain is a psychometric test. Everything that we can do, that gather information that provides us evidence to make the conclusion that you may have learned something, is a psychometric test. You see how big this actually is. How big. I mean, some of it already existed, of course. We had testing in education before the functionalists came along, but these worlds met, and it expanded into this field of applied psychology, which probably encompasses most of psychology theoretically, at least, right along with clinical, which is, addressing how to solve problems related to mental illness and mental disorders. But then we have applied psychology, how to use all this stuff to solve the problems of humanity. So a big transition chapter here, taking this history and really locking it down as to what is the philosophy that led to what we call modern psychology right now. So that's this week. Okay, for those of you in this class, this is both of you have communicated that there's upcoming changes in your schedule because of vacations and because of times you'll be away. This is a good opportunity for you to work together, to work ahead. I'm not usually really into having people do the discussions ahead of time. I'll continue to do these videos at the beginning of each week, but you are free to work together to make those discussions happen because you will be moving on to these vacations. So reach out to each other, work it out. You've been working out this out throughout the whole semester has been awesome because the two of you have really been working together on the discussions. Feel free to work ahead on everything while you're out having fun. I'll just stay here and grade. So thank you very much. But go ahead and work for those work ahead on each one of those chapters, and when you come back we can sort of wrap things up for this class at weeks 11 and 12. And so with that, have a great week. It's sunny today here on the 4th of July. Hope you're enjoying some time away. Hope you're not watching this video. You should be out eating hot dogs or something. So have a great day, and I will see you next time.